Please don't let these motivation videos fool you. It's not about going extra hard immediately. No, it's about doing these things over and over again and building the stack of evidence for the new version of yourself that you're wanting to become. I've been thinking about how we actually change ourselves. Because you hear so many people say all the time, change is the only constant in the human experience, and we are constantly evolving. And then you ask yourself maybe, but how do I direct this change? How can I take the wheel in my hands? Because yes, I'm changing all the time. All right. But most of the times, me personally, I feel stuck and I feel like I'm not changing a lot. And if everyone is keep saying that we change all the time, why do I always feel like I'm kind of stuck in the same mode? How can I take this change and actually make it happen? So, it's so easy to feel stuck. Like nothing will ever shift because this is what our mind tries to convince us is the truth, that we are always the way that we are. There's this thing where we have the illusion that at any given point in time, we've kind of reached the final version of ourselves, the one version that will not change. Like every event, every single era that you've gone through in your life has led up to the version that you are right now, and now you're fine. Now you won't change. This is an illusion that we have, and it is not the truth. You are changing this very minute, this very second. You're literally one decision away from changing your whole entire life. And this is what our mind does not want us to acknowledge. But if you know about this, if you know that you can change any given second, this thought and this realization holds immense power because this is closer to the truth than what your mind keeps telling you, which is that you've reached the final version and from now on things are going to stay the same. So we live inside the stories that we repeat to ourselves over and over again. So there's a narrative. We are kind of narrators of our own life. We write the book of our own life. It sounds cheesy, but it's the truth. In order to orient us in the world, we need to tell ourselves a story. This is how our memory works. As soon as we live an experience, we need to sort of save it. Like in a computer or something. Like you write a Word document and you save it. This is how we go about the experiences that we make in life. So let's say you meet a friend at the park and then you kind of save this, you encode this memory with a certain emotion tied to it. You remember certain things about the conversation. You remember certain things you did. And you repeat yourself in your mind, okay, we went to the park and then we sat down and then my friend made this funny remark, then we went home. And then you save that, and with that kind of representation you have of the event, you also carry an emotion that you have or that you connect with the event. This is how we store and make sense of the world, okay? And what is a problem a lot of the times is that we have this narrative about ourselves. So we tell ourselves things that we believe about ourselves. We have certain emotions tied to ourselves. And this is mostly dependent on the majority of the experiences you've made. So let's say your life is full of or was full of experiences that are kind of shaped by a more negative emotion. Let's say a lot of your memories, the dominating emotion was shame. That is an example. That is something that a lot of us carry. We constantly feel ashamed. We're socially anxious. We feel ashamed at work. We feel ashamed when we meet friends. We feel ashamed when we meet our family. This is the primary emotion. And this is the story you tell yourself about yourself. I am a person that is usually ashamed. And this is where you feel stuck. This is where you stay stuck. Just because you've made many memories that you've saved under this shame emotion does not mean that that is necessarily the truth. We can only represent so much. A lot of the times our brain is biased. So let's say you said something that was kind of embarrassing. Your brain saved that whole experience, that whole event, as being shameful because of that. But that is not the truth. You could also, even if one joke kind of went wrong and kind of didn't hit the spot, you could have made, I don't know, 4 or 5 other jokes that people found totally funny. But your brain, the narrative that you have kind of conditioned yourself to have is that it's just shameful. And here's where you go wrong. So, instead of telling yourself, I'll always be this way, because then nothing changes with this mindset, you have to tell yourself, I'm allowed to grow into someone new. I'm allowed to save this new experience that I've made under a different emotion. I'm allowed to paint this picture differently. And what you have to do is you have to swap this idea of why am I like this? Why is everything always turning out this way? Why do I always feel so ashamed after every single interaction? I should just stop trying interacting with people because I'm so embarrassing. Ask yourself, who do I want to become? Because quite frankly, you need some sort of trial ground to change yourself. You can't avoid yourself into changing, you know? You need to encounter life and encounter the challenges, encounter the situations that you're usually scared of, encounter the situations that you've kind of saved as negative in the past. You need to encounter them again and rewrite it. You need to have the opportunity to learn because our brain is so adaptive. We learn all the time, but you need to get yourself into the situation. You need to put yourself on the spot. You need to confront yourself with what we're so scared of and act not in the way that you're used to acting, but act in the way that you want to be. Every thought is like planting a seed, and some grow into weeds, some grow into fruit. And you don't have to believe the thought 100% for it to help, okay? You don't need to immediately believe, I'm the most charismatic person ever, and I am such a social butterfly. I will literally never ever feel ashamed again. This is not what you should be aiming for. But if you repeat it gently, your brain will catch up. What you have to do here is you really have to start with identity statements. So you have to say, I'm the kind of person who shows up, who attends the event, who tries their best, who makes a joke, you know? And this is how you change. You put yourself in the situation, you tell yourself a new narrative. You go into that situation with that new narrative. And if you have this new narrative in the situation, you act differently. You act like a different version of yourself. And this is where you have the chance to save this experience that you make. Say, you go to the picnic again. You go into the picnic with the mindset, I'm going to try to be confident today. I am a social person. I can do this. I'm not afraid. You go there and you make a slightly more positive experience. This will save in your brain as a more positive experience, which will change your view of yourself. This is literally how you change yourself over and over again. Go into the situation, tell yourself a different story, save it differently. This is how you change your identity. And what you have to remember here is that your thoughts are not facts, they're habits, okay? So you have just trained your brain to think that you're awkward, to think that you're very not entertaining, to think that you're kind of you pull others down because you're so negative. This is all stuff that you've taught yourself. And you literally, in this very moment, have the power to change that. We get this illusion through social media a lot that big transformations are so exciting and that everything just you snap with your finger and things are changing. That is not the truth. Real change is boring and repetitive because this is how we learn. Our brain is sort of dumb. It really, you have to, or it's not dumb necessarily. You have to think about it this way. You have a stack of evidence for this old narrative that you've been telling yourself for years. So let's say you're 20 or something. You have 20 years or 15 years at least. The time when your memory actually starts working is like 3. So you have like 17 years of experience of this narrative. You've been telling yourself this narrative over and over again. And then, boom, one day you start to change. One day you want to start telling yourself different things. Of course, we're first going to value this older evidence more. And this is why you have to repeat it over and over again because you have to start building your own new stack of evidence for this different mindset. So small actions done daily, they matter much more than huge bursts of motivations. Because sometimes we all know this feeling. It's 3:00 in the morning and you think to yourself, oh, I am going to change my life. Did anything ever come from that? Let's be honest, no. Because real change happens progressively over time. And every action is basically a vote for the kind of person that you're becoming. So let's say you wake up, you tell yourself a new narrative, which is, I am a tidy person. I am in control of my life. I'm not depressed. I'm not the person who lies in bed for 2 hours first thing in the morning and scrolls through social media. No. Instead, I'm going to make my bed. Then this making your bed is the first vote. Journaling. One sentence in your journal is a vote. Choosing water over soda that morning is one vote for your new narrative for yourself. You don't need perfection. You just need enough consistency to build trust within yourself. And then you gain something that is extremely powerful, which is self-efficacy. You will learn, and this is also part of the narrative, you learn that you can actually stick to what you tell yourself about yourself. You can stick to your own rules. This is how you can take the wheel into your own hands again and start to feel in control again. So consistency is way more important than intensity. Please don't let these motivation videos fool you. It's not about going extra hard immediately. No, it's about doing these things over and over again and building the stack of evidence for the new version of yourself that you're wanting to become. Tiny actions, they compound over time, like interest in a bank account, okay? So think to yourself, what's the smallest possible action that I can take today that future me would be grateful for, and do it. And you'll fail sometimes, okay? Because it's not easy. You've had this narrative, this identity for years and years, and you thought that you couldn't change. And sometimes your mind will hijack you and act in a way where you really think that you can't change. Sometimes it will sabotage you. Sometimes you won't listen to what you told yourself. But failure does not erase progress. This doesn't mean that you have to start from scratch. It just means that this current stack of evidence that you're building, it doesn't grow. Maybe you collect some evidence for the old stack of evidence again, but that doesn't mean that this new stack of evidence is gone, okay? It just means that you pause it a bit. You put it on halt. It just means that you start again tomorrow. So thoughts create the belief that I can change, and actions prove the belief. Look, I did something different today. This is evidence for the fact that I can change. And together, they form a powerful feedback loop in which belief fuels action, which in turn fuels belief again. And once you start, it's like a domino stack that you're kind of pushing, okay? Once you start this progress, there's no holding you back. No holding you back, as long as you believe in yourself. If you think that I am capable of growth and then go for a walk instead of scrolling, suddenly the thought becomes reality. It feels real. Over some time, this loop will rewire your identity. You stop trying to change all the time and you just are the new version of yourself that you wanted to become for so long. So change isn't as dramatic as it is in a movie scene. It's a quiet daily shift that you choose to make over and over again for yourself and for no one but yourself. This is also important. Only change because you want to change, not because somebody else asked you to change. Most people quit because they expect overnight results. We are trained to want immediate reward. We are hedonic. This is what society teaches us. But this is a slow and steady process, and there's no quick fix. There's no pill. There's no short way. You need to put in the work, but it's gonna be worth it. And sooner or later, you will start falling in love with the process. So be patient. You don't notice plants growing day by day, but they are. And after a while, you'll be like, wow, I really planted a seed there and it has really grown. So pick one action to take today, and this is how you change. So you don't have to be who you were yesterday. You get to start fresh every single day, and you can make the decision to change right now. So yeah, I hope you guys could take something from this video, and I see you guys in the next video. Bye.